LIFT is an AJC program for high schoolers to learn how to become advocates for Israel and the Jewish people. Learning more about why these issues are taking place, not just what's going on, I can really understand how complex these issues are. If you're interested in Israel, the Middle East, or even just learning how to be an advocate for a cause you believe in, you'll get all of that from joining the LIFT program, and it's just been a great experience that I think everybody should want to be a part of.
Good, okay, who's starting?
Hi, my name is Ryan Berger. Thank you so much for having us here. We're really appreciative. So we're all alums of American Jewish Committee's Leaders for Tomorrow program, or LIFT. And AJC has really taught us to be advocates for Israel. And we are all going off to college campuses next year, and we're really excited to have this opportunity to meet with you to get a little bit more of your perspective and insight on what you think of what's going on in America and the world related to Israel. And so my first question is, we've noticed that there's been somewhat of a disconnect and a divergence between the older generation of Jews in America and the younger generation of Jews. And we're sort of wondering what you think is the best way to keep young American Jews excited about Israel and wanting to be advocates for Israel.
How about that small word, education? How about knowing something? Like, we live in a modern age where history goes back to breakfast, if you're lucky, And you can say things about Israel that are ridiculous. The one democracy in the Middle East, the one democracy now in a very, very large swath of the earth, much bigger than the Middle East, okay? And Israel is described as apartheid, as non-liberal, as anti-democratic. It's a joke. All you have to do is not only know history, know the facts today, but in this ahistorical, afactual world that we live in, people are swept into these absurd positions that defy reality, fact, logic, common sense. And you're supposed to be sitting there, well, how can we go against the tide? Of course you should. You're leaders. And stick to facts and stick to the truth. Combine conviction with fact. Go out there. That's your opportunity. To go with the crowd. This crowd, that know-nothing crowd, You know what leadership is? Here's leadership. I'll show you what leadership is. This is what you're told leadership is, okay? All right, gotta use some. This is sheep, okay? Running, a herd of sheep, right? And you're asked by the common sway of opinion about Israel, politically correct opinion on the campus, if the herd is going here, right? That's where it's going. It's rushing there, slandering Israel with the direction of the wind. You, as a leader, how will you be a leader? You'll go from here to here, you'll run here, and you'll run in the same direction, look back, okay, is the herd with me? That's not leadership, here's leadership. That's leadership, take them that direction, okay? Go against this nonsense, go against the lies, tell the truth about Israel. We have nothing to hide, we have everything to be proud of. Okay? Yeah. How's that? Is that subtle enough?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good, that's good.
So, hi, I'm Malehorn. I'll be attending the Ross School of Business at University of Michigan in the fall. So with that being said, I was wondering, in your opinion, what is the return on investment of partnering with Israel?
Well, it used to be said that the way you make a small fortune in Israel, you start with a big fortune. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Hold on. Today you make big fortunes. Other story about Israel, aside from the this horrible assault on the truth and the portraying of Israel as an illiberal society. It's in fact the only liberal society in thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. And you can really go far until you get, I always say the West stops here, okay? Western society, the fact that you can, that you have a free press, a free parliament, an independent judiciary, rights for everyone, for minorities, for gays, for blacks, whites, who cares? This is what Israel is. For Muslims, where do Muslims have the civil rights that they enjoy in Israel? Anywhere in the Muslim world, tell me one place. All Muslims, not part of this or that tribe, this or that caste. So aside from the slander of Israel, which I've just compressed for you, there is another great story about Israel. It's a revolutionary story, and that is the development of Israeli high-tech with entrepreneurship, okay? And that's happened. We had to, develop it. Two things really contributed to it. One is a famous man. His name was General Charles de Gaulle. He was president of France. You know Charles de Gaulle? Huh? Mm-hmm. That's good. That's great. So Charles de Gaulle was the president of France, and he imposes an arms embargo on Israel in 1966, a year before the Six-Day War. And we were buying French aircraft, we were buying French technology. And at that point, we decided, oh, okay, I guess we'll have to make it on our own. So that began the development, the accelerated development of Israeli technology, first in the military, but then it created the possibility of civilian spin-offs. But the other thing is, how do you make spin-offs? Well, if you're taxed 70, 80%, you're not going to have a spin-off because people are not going to do it. So we had to change the Israeli economy to be more market-friendly, more friendly to entrepreneurs and business, and I had something to do with that. And the combination of technology and a market-friendly environment created an explosion. So now Israel is the other place. One place is the valley, and the other place is the wadi. And we have an explosion of high tech, which people find very attractive. Eric Schmidt of Google told me, hey, Israel is the place where I invest in order to make a lot of money. And Intel just bought a company a few hundred yards from here, Mobileye. They paid $15 billion. Before Google paid $1 billion for Waze, they got a bargain deal. So you can make a lot of good investments in Israel because there is that combination of creativity and market friendliness, and that's a potent combination. That's the story of Israel that you may not get on the college campus.
Yeah, we don't.
Of course, because it's a bubble. You live in a bubble, you live in an isolated bubble. They create virtual reality there. But in the markets, in the real world, that's what's happening. You know how many leaders come here? I counted, I had about 250 leaders. There are only 220 working days in Israel. We have a lot of holidays. So I get about a leader and a quarter. Now, I'm getting now, what is it, the Prime Minister of Ukraine? Okay, so we just have one today? The average is 1 1/4, okay? We don't get a quarter, believe me. But I get 1 1/4. Why are they all coming here? Because they know the truth about Israel. They know it's a force for progress, for security, for peace, for stability. But they also know it's a force of tremendous technology. And in the college campuses, in this bubble that you're in, they don't know all that. They're locked into a world that doesn't exist. It exists in the minds of these so-called progressives, the guys who support Hamas, executes people, or Iran that hangs gays from cranes. Progressives? They're not progressives. They're reactionaries. You shouldn't be with the reactionaries. The reactionaries are those that are trying to get Israel. That's the fact. That's the truth. It's like a joke. I hope I'm being subtle enough for you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is William Scherr.
I remember that. Always remember that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So my name is William Scherr. I'm from New York City. I'm going to Cornell next fall. My question's...
Yeah, my father taught at Cornell. What are you going to study at Cornell?
I'm going to study government or history. I'm undecided.
Go to politics?
Maybe, we'll see.
Reconsider that.
My question's on a bit of a different note. Due to the increased threat of ISIS and Iran, how has Israel's relationship changed with the Gulf nations and other nations in the Arab world?
Well, obviously, countries in the region don't view Israel as their enemy anymore, but as their ally against these twin threats of militant Islam led by the Shiites or by Iran, or militant Sunni Islam led by Daesh or Al-Qaeda, and they keep changing between them. So they see that Israel is their their indispensable partner in fighting this. And that's obviously changing the relationship. It may ultimately open the door for changing not merely the relations of governments, but also begin to change the perception of Israel in the Arab street, as they call it. Mm-hmm. That hasn't happened at all on the Palestinian street because they constantly feed horrible slanders against it. But in parts of the Arab world, you get Israel is no longer the demon that it once was, and we take a back seat to these other forces, I have to say. And there's even an appreciation that's beginning to emerge. Hey, maybe we could change our lives, not only our security, but the way we handle our water resources, our agriculture, our transport, our air pollution, and so on. And that these are real, I would say, the first cracks that I've seen in this wall of hostility against Israel for many, many decades. It's happening now. And it's true that it got its impetus from the fear of common enemies, but I think it may take us to a different place. I hope it brings peace.
Same, yeah. I mean, yeah, I really.
My name is Molly Shapiro. I'm going to Yale University next year. So in your handy diagram, you illustrated what true leadership looks like. And I'm curious, we're all aspiring leaders. What has influenced your way of leadership in Israel?
Well, I think it's the commitment to ensure the security in the future and the prosperity of the country. Okay, I came to this as a natural development from being born in Israel. So I knew that the Jewish state was there, but I didn't think it would be taken for granted when you saw the threats that pile up, which is our commitment to serve in the army, to build the army, to make sure that we have the ability to protect ourselves. But I was also powerfully motivated by a few years I spent in the United States as a teenager. My belief in the idea that you have to open a marketplace, you have to work on meritocracy, which were ideas that were very strongly ingrained in me by my upbringing, but also in my years in the United States. And I thought that that's what Israel's potential, which is immense, would be unleashed once you debureaucratize it, allowed more freedom. Not unlimited freedom, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as completely free markets. There's no such thing as a country without regulation. But there is a country with over-regulation and over-bureaucratization and too much state control. That's where we were. That, for me, represented an opportunity. You want to know why? Here's the next diagram. You want to see it?
Yes.
Okay, here's the diagram. This is very complex economic idea. Okay, this is a boot. Okay, see that? That's a boot. And this is a spring. Okay, and the spring is the economic potential in any society. And if you have very heavy boot of regulation, taxation, and government, when you take that boot off, what happens to the spring? And that's what's happened. When we've liberalized the Israeli economy, it's been growing at about 5% a year, roughly, for the last 12 years. That's a very high growth rate when you get to be a high per capita income. So we're now going to cross $40,000 per capita income. We're going to cross Japan. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
No? Okay. That's for lifting the boot. Okay? There are certain qualities that our people, our citizens have, but you have to remove the heavy boot. And that's what we've done, and it works.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, my name is Brett Zaslavsky.
So you got two diagrams.
Yeah, thank you. So we're sitting here, obviously, in Jerusalem, a city of a lot of historical and religious significance to a very diverse population of people, and also with Jerusalem Day coming up, I was curious for your vision for the city of Jerusalem and what you see for the city going forward.
It's been a vision of, millennia. I mean, 3,000 years ago, a little less, the greatest words in the history of humanity were said here by prophets who saw visions of universal peace or universal justice. But it was also a particular city. It was the city in which our identity and our faith in many ways were forged, and has guided our dreams for centuries. We're the only people who viewed Jerusalem as their capital. No other people did that. And given that that's about 3,000 years since King David established the capital, not very far from here, about a kilometer and a half from here, you know, it resonates with us, and it both connects us to our roots and gives us our hope for the future. And it's only under Israel, only in the last 50 years since Israel became the sovereign power over the religious sites, that all three faiths have had unimpeded access to their holy sites and given unfettered ability to practice their faith. So there's no contradiction between Israeli sovereignty in Jerusalem and religious freedom. There is, in fact, an absolute dependence on that. Because if Israel were not here, who knows what would happen to the shrines here? It's like what happened in Palmyra, what happens to mosques, synagogues, churches that are destroyed by the forces of fanaticism. It's because Israel is this modern, democratic, liberal state committed to progress, committed to pluralism, that religious freedom is enshrined and protected in Jerusalem and everywhere else in the state of Israel. Israel is the only place where Christians thrive in the Middle East. Everywhere else, they are shriveled or are threatened. Bethlehem, 20 years ago, under Israel, had 80% Christians, 20% Muslims. 20 years later, under the Palestinian Authority, what happened?
No response.
Reverse, yeah.
I switched.
Neat reverse. Okay? That tells you something. That hasn't happened in Israel, and won't ever.
I think we just want to say thank you on behalf of AJC. Thank you for your time and your generosity of insight, and I think we'll remember this for many days to come.
So are you going to be leaders, or are you going to say, well, how do I, God, they're saying these awful things. Be leaders. Stand up there. Stand up for the truth. Stand up for Israel. Be proud.